Good day, Africa, and welcome to AI Expo 2020 online version. Amazing. Welcome to the biggest business-to-business AI conference on the continent, helping us to bring together best practices in how to uplift African business readiness to maximize the opportunities and the possibilities of the fourth industrial revolution. I want to say a big thank you to Nick and his wonderful team, particularly for his tenacity and consistency on the need to have a platform to showcase the best of the continent and to stimulate desire towards, product-oriented, solution-oriented artificial intelligence. And now this year has actually expanded to even bringing in talent development, research and education. It's so amazing to be part of this year's edition. I'm really excited to share my thoughts about this keynote address. Now, in terms of what I'll be speaking to today, broadly, I think the image I have on the screen captures the metaphorical intention of what I really want to drive at. Today, there is something that the world comes to see in Africa. It's about our tourism. It's about our safaris. If you look at countries like Kenya, where tourism represents as much as 8-9% of GDP. In South Africa, almost the same percentage, 9%. And Lesotho about 12.3% thereabout. And Madagascar like about 11%, around 11%. So essentially, the world comes to Africa because of our herbivores, our carnivores, our omnivores. But I'm postulating that based on the current run rate and the commitment of platforms like this and many other initiatives on the continent, there's a new revolution towards raising a datavorous continent beyond the omnivorous or the carnivorous or the herbivorous one, which of course positions the continent as the new destination of investment or solution development of infrastructural, AI infrastructural deployment for use, for business, for social good. So I'm excited, and that's the narrative I want to push across today, sharing my thoughts around the path towards catalyzing a dataverse Africa, a continent where data is used for sustainable socio-economic development and actually as a basis for competitive national advantage in the emerging fourth industrial revolution. In terms of my agenda, I'm going to broadly speak to this, introduce myself, my concept of dataverse continent, and then how do we build a dataverse ecosystem for the talent pipeline and understanding the implication on GDP. Some of our learnings are data science Nigeria, and of course some critical imperatives, which for me should be one of the key communique from AI Expo 2020. I'm going to start by showing us this very illustrative map presented in the AI Readiness Index published late last year by AI for Development, indicating where we stand today as a continent. And of course, without much analysis, we are the front lines on the continent, indicating huge gap in artificial intelligence readiness from a government perspective, the degree to which the right infrastructure, regulatory, governance framework, skill development is in place. And this, for me, is the starting point of the narrative of the need for a dataverse continent. I'm sure a lot of us must have read McKinsey Global Institute report published, I think 2018, 2019, around the fact that artificial intelligence has the potential to deliver additional global economic activity of around $13 trillion by 2030. That is 16% higher cumulative GDP compared to where we are today. So in annual terms, that is 1.2% additional GDP growth per year. This is significant net economic impact. And then this is consistent with another report released early this year by PwC, which states that AI will make economic contribution of about $15.7 trillion by 2030. That's 26% boost in GDP, for local economy by 2030. The most interesting thing for me, and that's why I'm very excited about AI Expo as a concept, is the fact that 45% of the total economic gains of AI will come from product enhancement. Enhancing product, augmenting product, enriching business, productivity, which of course has direct impact on stimulating consumer demand. So a product in terms of manufacturing, in terms of service, are augmented, so there's increased consumption. And that's the essence of what AI Expo represents as the biggest business-to-business conference on the continent, where we look at how we can apply AI to enhance, augment, improve product and service delivery, which, as proven by PwC, has almost half incremental uplift on gross domestic product. So let me quickly introduce myself, just to set the tone in terms of some of the things that will shape some of the things I'm going to be talking about. Of course, my background and perspective will colorate my position that I have today. And I think it's important that I declare who I am and some of the interests that I have around AI application on the continent. I work for MTN Nigeria, the biggest and the largest telco on the continent, where I lead innovation and transformation as a C-level executive. I've risen through the rank as an analytics and business intelligence professional. I'm also a computational social scientist. I use big data AI to understand social behavior, social phenomenon, consumption behavior, organic relationship, interconnectedness, sharing economy, digital behavior, cascade effect, bandwagon effect. I founded Data Science Nigeria, the biggest AI learning community on the continent. I'm also a very hands-on practitioner. And that explains why I'm very, very hands-on on Cargo, where I work on a lot of multi-industry data sets, which allows me to fine-tune my hands-on skill set in cutting-edge best practice as far as AI practice is concerned, using the biggest platform, cargo.com, owned by Google. I'm also into high-level, PhD-level research in how data can be used from a methodological perspective, and of course, research. I have a patent, books around monetizing social behavior, sharing economy, interconnectedness. My patent in data and AI is around using interaction, connectivity, and interconnected relationship to develop social pricing that optimize value and redundancy in the system. I'm also quite involved in academic research. I present at conferences showcasing some of the work that we do at Data Science Nigeria. Of course, by reason of the company I work for, a company that is committed to bringing brightness to our community, that's MTN Nigeria. I was also part of Nigerian COVID-19 response on how to use advanced big data to flatten the curve, building epidemiological indicators that combine multiple databases to support government in terms of preparedness, and of course how to support the low-income base based on geospatial clustering and the expected risk indices allocation. Like I said, I lead Data Science Nigeria, which has a vision to build 1 million AI talent in 10 years. So let's go straight to why we've gathered today. So what does it mean to build a dataverse continent? We all know the herbivorous, the carnivorous continent. We know the omnivorous continent. How do we build a dataverse continent? Just as we know the carnivores, what is the concept? It's all about what they eat. They are defined by what they consume. So what they consume, process, that get integrated into their system as nutrition for their growth. So they're actually defined largely by what they take in. So the herbivores take in herbs, the carnivores take in flesh, and the omnivores take in both herb and of course flesh. So the same principle, what we take in that we process and digest and form the core of our nutrition for building ourselves is what determines whether a nation is dataverse or not. So what am I talking about? A nation that takes in data points, from sensors, from macroeconomic research, from industry, and process them in true internal digestive system and taking the nutrients in terms of insight for institutional muscle building, to build the nation and make investment in the right place, just as the body digestive system can process food and make it relevant for growth. In the same way, what a nation takes in as food and the degree to which is digested, broken down, and the right nutrient is taken in to build institutional muscles and nutrients for nation building. It's as simple as that. And that's why I want you to see the metaphorical side of what I'm trying to say. But Africa will become great to the extent that we're able to take data points from different entities and be able to use systems like artificial intelligence to translate it, processes into intelligence, and those intelligence can give us institutional muscles and capacity that can support our growth. In the same parallel that humans take in specific kinds of food in specific quantum and called balanced diet. So a nation must take in balanced diet of data points in order to be able to build the desired institutional muscles and nutrients to grow as a nation, that all the critical data points that are necessary for nation building are actually integrated voraciously. And that is the narrative. But there's a path to doing that. That on our path to becoming a continent where AI becomes a basis for sustainable competitive advantage, there's a path to it. And I've chosen, to capture it, in a very illustrative way using this diagram, which is based on my talks and some other papers that I've read. That first and foremost, a nation starts as data illiterate nation, where data exists but is never seen as a strategic asset for nation building. There's nothing called processing of data via AI. There's nothing like that. The country is not even aware. But there's also a level of data phobes where, we are aware of data. There is bureau of statistics, but of course, there's a lot of fear for political reason of how data can be used for decision making. The data may exist, partially, but it's not embedded. But there's another level of data mixer where, okay, the country is deliberately identifying data points here and there to guide decision making, and most likely for reporting purpose. And of course, we have the data builder, where there's now a systemic approach to bring in data from multiple sources to drive reporting, and more importantly, to drive action. So governance, accountability, transparency. So issues of open data, issues of open governance data, OGD, and all that are imperative in those nations. But the peak of the pack, which is where the impact becomes really big in building institutional muscles, is where a nation becomes data warriors, where data becomes a catalyst for innovation that triggers and drives socioeconomic growth, where data is applied just like a balanced diet at the right quantum, at the right volume, in the right velocity, to be able to make decisions, to be able to apply it at scale, not just for governance, but also for business, and to trigger, different startups and building a massive ecosystem of interdependent data exchange for mutually beneficial value. I believe this is where data becomes such a big asset to the continent. But there's a path to doing this. And that's what I'm going to be talking to in the next few minutes that I have. Of course, Africa must seek for programmable data-driven innovation because we are limited by our current infrastructure. So everyone talks about leapfrogging. But how do we leapfrog if the fundamental raw material for making decisions, things that robotics and AI will leverage, which is data, is missing? Our ability to leapfrog is limited. Of course, there are so many issues that data can solve. And that's why my position is our quest towards becoming data warriors is first and foremost to first of all identify in a very deliberate way some specific outcome of what data can do in addressing specific issues. In this case, our sustainable development goals, which for me, in terms of most important, I've simplified into 4 key areas. Just address poverty, health, education, good jobs, and inclusive economic growth. If we have clear sense of focus as a continent on how we bring data points together to solve this problem, 2 things will happen. It will catalyze new opportunities and possibilities for the business ecosystem. And of course, it gives us talents that catalyzes the impact, like a domino effect. Having established that, I move straight into an area of serious passion for me, which for me is actually the core of this keynote, which is we must build a data-verse ecosystem. This is beyond just flash in the pan attempt. It's a deliberate and intentional effort to galvanize the nation to making data an asset for sustainable socio-economic development. And that is why talent, people, labor becomes such a critical game changer. The traditional economists tell us very clearly that in terms of factor of production, the first is labor. Talent is a critical driver of our journey towards becoming a data-verse continent, where AI data become embedded into our productivity, as a nation. And because this has a direct, linear relationship to gross domestic product, and that's what I'm going to be talking on, to inspire the business community that we have a responsibility to start understanding why we need to invest in talents of the future who will support our business in the future, and of course become a better consumer of our products and services in the future. So, and this agrees with some of the statistics that we have. This was published by IFC Africa, saying that so much opportunity that digital represents for the continent in 2030, which agrees with a lot of statistics shared initially in this session. If you look at the current talent global profile as far as data and AI is concerned, Africa is missing in action. We are not listed. And if you look at some of the amazing frameworks that have been built on understanding how nation can evolve on this national artificial intelligence framework, I'm sure a lot of us are aware of so many frameworks that many nations have already developed nationally as well. One of the things I've seen that are consistent across all those indicators of framework is the imperatives for investing in people, talent building in a very intentional and deliberate way. I've spoken to the AI Readiness Index by Oxford Insights. There are specific KPIs that nations that have built skills and education, innovation, will drive incremental value in its AI for nation building. The Global AI Index, which is the first index actually to benchmark nations on their levels of investment, innovation, and implementation of AI, recognizes talent investment as a critical lever for building AI, as a game changer for the nation. Same for Deloitte's AI Readiness Assessment, speaks specifically in its 6 indicators on people and talent model for nation building. The Capgemini AI Performance Benchmark Report also speak to research and education as one of the critical levers for measuring AI for nation building. Stanford HAI as well, Cambridge AI Index as well, which measures AI precondition, R&D environment, which is proportionate to talent and of course degree of commercialization. The Global AI Index particularly has some African countries. But if you look at it, there are 6 African countries, but they are all in the bottom rank. In Morocco 43, South Africa 47, Tunisia 49, Kenya 50, Nigeria 52, Egypt 53. We are significantly below the radar. So therefore, I proceed strongly to the business community in Africa. In order for us to innovate for the future, we must invest in talents that will help us own and create the future we desire as a continent. It cannot be left to chance. The business community must be intentional and cooperate with government and educational institutions to invest deliberately in talent building. I look at the Global Talent Report for last year. I see how blank, how small we are as a continent in terms of the AI talent that are coming from our continent. Of course, there will always be talent flow. People will say, oh, if you invest in talent in Africa, we're going to lose them to the industry world. Of course, let's first of all build a talent pipeline. You know, whichever way it goes, we'll always have talent that will always stay. And that's the story of some of the countries there, like China and India. Generate a lot of talent, they all go to the different part of the world, but you still retain. So what matters is to build a huge pipeline of talent that allows you to retain as much as possible. And why do we need to be excited about this? There is no other continent like we are. We are the youngest continent in the world. Our average median age is 18. So the focus for the continent today should be how to reskill, retool this young men, because in the next 20, 30 years, when average median age in most of the West, you know, most of the developed countries will be moving to 40 to 45, if not 50, Africa will become the workforce of the continent. And that is why they need to build talent of the future and make the world to look at Africa, not just for tourism, but for talent, from tourism to talent. And that is my narrative today. Why? Because businesses will find reason to invest more and to begin to build more, because R&D will be localized. We have talent that are localized. And that's why being, AI agenda is not just one of the things a business will do for CSR. It's actually an integral part of business as success driver. Look at the age projection, and in terms of age range, and look at Africa. We're going to be, the youngest continent in few years to come. And that means we must deliberately invest in our people. And that for me is my position today. Look at it in 2050. At 2050, most youngest people in the world will be in Africa. What are they going to be doing? What skills will they have? How will they be relevant to the world? If we are not intentional about building talent pipeline around digital skill that will shape the future, particularly in data science, AI, machine learning, robotics, and so many ancillary skill sets that are critical for our nation building. A report by World Economic Forum indicates that this demographic group will generate between 11 and 15% GDP between 2011 and 2030. Africa cannot be left behind. Our quest for building a robust AI ecosystem is directly proportional to a degree of deliberate investment in talent. And somebody may ask question, like the traditional question between CFO and CEO. What happens if we invest in developing our talent, our local people, and they leave us to go to developed markets? CEOs will say, what happens if we don't invest in them? They stay. They have no value, they remain on the continent. And this is my pitch to the business ecosystem. This is not about just giving a percentage to AI, training programs. It's about being intentional and being deliberate and becoming an integral part building our future talents. And like this quote says, if you don't train them, don't blame them. I'm going to quickly speak to Aligns Data Science Nigeria as a way to underscore the need for private sector-led, talent development program, building pipeline of innovation, research and development for the continent, which can directly impact the 45% expected uplift from product enhancement using AI as predicted by PwC report. What are some of our Aligns Data Science Nigeria? We see that early education is key. So it's not just waiting when they are done from the university. If we truly want to build a data pipeline, it must be end-to-end. We must recalibrate, augment, enhance that early education and make it the proper learning. And that was why I wrote the first AI book for elementary schools and beginners in Africa, which is now being adopted by many schools in Nigeria. It's purely beginners artificial intelligence with some Python programming introduction. It's a book written in the language of children, breaking the possibilities of artificial intelligence, machine learning in the language you understand, using cartoon character, getting them to understand the possibilities of what they can do, how they can innovate, and reconditioning their mind as talent that can support the business ecosystem, because we've given them that new appetite and desire to upscale and upskill themselves to add to the commonwealth of the continent, and that is the intention of the book. And it's amazing the stories and the narrative we've been hearing on the book. Students who are learning to code just by reading the book, because it's written just for you to be a self-starter with your own, And of course, it comes with a lot of activities. Of course, the book, even though it's actually meant for Africa, and the way we captured it is now being sold all over the world, and feedback is coming, across the continent about how it's helping a lot of young people to start their journey in artificial intelligence. This is one of our learnings, and we've gone to the level of making the book free through Train the Teachers program, getting it embedded into the curriculum, getting schools, particularly private schools, to adopt it and use it to train their children, and getting corporate companies, and that's where business to business comes in. This particular edition, we have a company in Nigeria called Softcom. It's an IT company that is interested in building the future, sponsored and many, bulk edition of this book, and it's being distributed free. Same for another company called Procia Foundation, and many other companies as well, supporting us to make the book free. And of course, we use the book to run training for kids at our hub in Lagos. And of course, we make the book available to public schools across the country. This is how we build a data-voracious continent. We have to be intentional, and more importantly, we have to start from the foundation. When we invest early in early education, we raise children who are more motivated, children who are more. Okay, so today, as Data Science Nigeria, we run the largest and the biggest free AI learning platform, across campuses and cities, using multiple channels, online, offline, project-based, and content development to be able to stimulate the ecosystem. So meeting groups in various cities, transforming learning by embedding AI into national curriculum, creating learning centers across the country, of course, creating learning communities on campus. We have called ours AI Plus Clubs, owned and managed by Data Science Nigeria, currently in 17 universities and in 23 cities, all driven by same curriculum of learning, like any club on campus. But these are people who are passionate about AI for social good. Of course, we bring them together annually for a competitive boot camp where the best of the best come to compete, to learn, and of course, we bring some of the best experts to Nigeria. One of the things we have done, and the whole conversation here is this: for us to build a high-impact AI ecosystem, the business community must have a deliberate interest in supporting learning in a very intentional way. One of the things we've done, knowing the fact that there may be shortfall, which is a reality of experts of AI in our country, what we've done is to look out for all the global centers of excellence in AI in AI teaching. So I'm speaking to the Stanford, the Cambridge, the Oxford, the MILA in Canada, to MIT, Harvard. And then we curated all the latest teaching contents that they have made publicly available. We curated them by levels, cataloged them by knowledge level, interest, specialization, into an external USB, which now has over 17,000 videos of classes, which as recent as this year. So this is distributed across all campuses, cities in Nigeria, free of charge, to be able to have world-class learning. And of course, we also support best students with scholarship, so that it's not just stuck in AI, but it's also giving them what it takes. Of course, we also support institutions. I just recently were able to support a leading university in Nigeria with latest AI books. So we actually stocked up the University of Lagos library, because these, like I said, the effort must be intentional and it must be deliberate. This is some books for the library. And the result of that effort is becoming evident. Last year, we won the #1 AI community and second best academic poster, even though we're not a university, but by the reason of the quality of the research coming from our ecosystem, we made second best poster at Deep Learning in Daba, which is the biggest gathering of AI researchers and academic practitioners on the continent. Just sometime last month, we won the best academic poster again at a global conference ahead of some of the top schools that are known for AI, at the 21st ACM conference that looks at the multidisciplinary application of computation and AI to solve economic problems. So our paper on how to end poverty through mechanism design driven financial inclusion was the award winner. So the reason why I'm showing this is that private sector led big picture program with proven results as this is a demonstration of the fact that the more the business community shows interest in building talent pipeline for the future, the more it's able to secure its future because there is a continuous flow of talent pool. And of course, the more it uplifts the collective well-being of the society, such that the sustainability of that business is guaranteed because we have increased the economic prosperity of an average citizen who also has a society, then that business can survive due to the power of consumption. And that for me is my logic, which was well captured when World Economic Forum reviewed our work at the beginning, during COVID-19, looking at how we have become an alternative that can bridge digital skill gap and can provide a basis for post-COVID economic recovery. So in Nigeria, we've moved beyond just teaching and doing research. It's now supporting the enterprise in a deliberate way. So we have become the biggest talent pipeline, and also we also do consulting because the proof of our ecosystem is the fact that we can solve business problems. And we use this to also drive a lot of our students who participate in projects even while they're in school. We are privileged to train some of the global organizations in Nigeria, organize bespoke AI program for executives where they learn AI in practice. Of course, some of our works were actually used during COVID-19. This is one of the papers we published during COVID-19. Some of our papers during COVID-19. This is some of our products created. We also offer consulting solutions to global multinational. The links here takes you to some of the works we're doing for leading global foundation, demonstrating how AI can be applied in context. This is about AI for health. This is another project on AI to drive project accountability using computer vision to track project evolution at scale. The other thing we've done is also to support the industry with data using a massive network of students across the country to generate on-field data for business decisions at low cost. So this is stimulating to our students. They're generating data, they're earning small cash. The business community is having access to data to make decisions. So we will develop applications like Data Cloud that can collect geospatial data across the country and collect data by coordinates. I can collect text data, image data, video data, audio data. Today, by reason of our solution, we can help business track product availability across the country. We know the prices of products, so we can predict inflation. We understand various seasonal updates happening in different parts of the country, electricity supply indicators, data that are generated by individuals who, within 5 minutes can take those data, take picture and send. Now, this for me is how, a data-voracious ecosystem is built, where it's not just about teaching, but applying those learning to solve problems that are critical to industry, whilst the students that are being taught are also embedded into a revenue-generating ecosystem that is mutually beneficial for value. This is another product that we created in Nigeria for data collection, financial inclusion, geospatial data collection across all levels. Now, having painted this story, my intention in this keynote is that for Africa to see big impact on AI application, in as much as government will do its best, the business community must go the extra mile. The result that we have seen at Data Science Nigeria is a proof that indeed with a clear, compelling, focused, intentional approach, results can come earlier than we think. We started just 3 years ago, and we've seen this level of impact. What are the critical imperatives as I conclude my keynote? So now, to African business community at AI Expo 2020, proactive talent pipelining is very, very critical. While you also build within your organization a higher level of data fluency, building the future, or we wait for it to happen. We cannot wait for it to happen. The future is actually what we engineer and orchestrate by deliberate investment in the critical levers that will change how we create value, capture value, and distribute value. And that is the old narrative of investing in talent deliberately, using meaningful systems to create value that makes sure that we raise local talent that are well positioned to solve local problems. And that localization is where fluency comes in, where we deliberately do that. And I believe that as we create products and create solutions, we must also create people that will build the product of the future. And the second thing, which I will also speak to the business community, is around conversation from a recent model that McKinsey published around how organization can become analytical oriented. I see it as one of the levers of data-focused organization that creates an organic system to be able to take in various types of data, like a magnet, attract different kinds of data, process those data, digest them into usable format. Because one of the biggest problems with a lot of institutions on the continent is actually that we're taking in data, but there seems to be a kwashiorkor of a type where the data we're taking is not translating into institutional muscle or growth. I'm sure the kwashiorkor disease where kids taking a lot of food, like I've used as a metaphor, but yeah, we're not seeing any growth. The same organization can have so many data points, but yet there is no demonstrated growth as a result of data, what we call return on insight. That's why McKinsey proposes lovely model, which I think if there's one takeaway I want to drop with the African business community, is going to be this, which is we need new experts that combines business skill and analytic skill. McKinsey called them analytic translators. Many organizations do not have people who can forge a common point between business issues and analytic capabilities. So we just have silos of experts within the organization. There is no way you can maximize the value of data without deliberately raising a new breed of analytic translators. Guys who understand problems of the society, translate it into business, understand what analytical capability that exists, and they can blend the two together to create what makes sense, such that the organization taking data, process it, digest it, apply it, and it translates into sustainable competitive advantage, which agrees with the statement that every firm has two sources of competitive advantage. I'm quoting Jack Welch, the man of GE fame, who said, is the ability to gain insight faster than competition, and ability to use those insights faster than competition that determines great organization. So for me, those are the things I want the B2B community to take away from this year. We must be intentional to build talent outside, and of course, we adjust our internal talent structure to have the right kind of people who can help make sense of data. So, Data Science Nigeria, you can know more about what we do. Those are our social media footprints. You can know more about us. And of course, we're a registered charity. You can download our annual report and see our growth to the point that we have become a self-sustaining learning ecosystem. We deliver learning, we deliver award-winning research, global award-winning research. We fund education of many young Nigerian students to study in big institutions in the world. We support organizations in Nigeria with data, with consulting solution, and we also now move into the level of helping many of them generate data. And of course, all the extra income or revenue made from all of this is pumped back into pervasive, inclusive training across the country. And that for me should be a template of how Africa can raise the bar and position itself to move from being the place of carnivores to the continent of datavores. Thanks for having me, and enjoy AI Expo 2020, the biggest B2B conference in Africa. Thank you.